ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै Śrī Kṛṣṇa. So we're here with our friends in Canberra. We're continuing with Sri Sri Prapanna-jivanamritam, and yesterday we went through the beginning verses of Param Guru Maharaj's first chapter. There's some prayers of invocation and then some overview of the different sections within the text. And now Param Guru Maharaj is coming to discuss more about the essential thing here, śaraṇāgati. And he begins with this verse, which is very, very special. So this is verse 35 of the first chapter. And Srila Gurudev put a lot of emphasis on this verse, and he commented that if we can learn only one verse from the scriptures, this is the one. Yeah. We know Srila Gurudev also put a lot of emphasis on jñāna-bhaktitaḥ, third verse of Shikṣāṣtakam. And that verse, I think everybody just automatically memorized from hearing Gurudev speak about it so much. But this is another verse which he pointed out is very essential, and one he said, if you can learn one verse from the scriptures and put that into your hearts, then make it this verse. And it is a nutshell summary of what is śaraṇāgati. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj himself was very happy with this verse. As Srila Gurudev said that once he asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, can you tell me, like in a very short way, what is śaraṇāgati? What is the definition of śaraṇāgati? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, haven't you read Prapanna-jivanamritam? And Gurudev said, yes, I have, but can you tell me in a very short way? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj himself pointed out this verse of his. This verse is giving like a very short, concise, summary of the essential, aspects of śaraṇāgati. So we can hear that now. Vastu-nirṇayaḥ, theme of the work. So establishing what is the subject, the principal subject matter of this book. Bhagavad-bhaktitaḥ, and this is the verse, bhagavad-bhaktitaḥ sarvam utsṛjya vidher kaiṅkaryaṁ kṛṣṇa-pādaikāśrayatvaṁ śaraṇāgati. Being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord. Being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord. To abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions and take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Śrī Kṛṣṇa in every time, place and circumstance is known as śaraṇāgati, unconditional surrender. So three main points here. To have the bhagavad-bhaktitaḥ sarvam, to have the faith that's by bhagavad bhakti, by devotion, by bhakti to the Lord. Sarvam simply means everything, so the implication is that you'll get everything, or everything will be fulfilled in that way. And so this is also the basic definition of shraddha, of faith. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this famous verse giving a definition of faith, which states this basically: Shraddha shabde Vishakha sudrida nishtoy Krishna bhakti khile sarva karma krita hoy. What is Shraddha? The word Shraddha means to have the firm conviction that Krishna bhakti khile sarva karma krita hoy, that simply by performing Krishna bhakti, by devoting everything to Krishna, then everything will be fulfilled. All activity will be satisfied by that. Just as in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, that famous analogy is given, yatā taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tat skanda bujo pashakaha pranopahar chaya tenjyanam tataiva savarhanam achute ja. That's stating that everything will be achieved by by offering one's worship to Krishna. It is not necessary to worship the various demigods, but by offering our activity, offering our devotion to that central, supreme Lord, then everyone and everything will be satisfied. And the analogy is given there of watering, that famous analogy of watering the root of the tree, and the whole tree will be. This is from that verse. And putting food to your stomach, and from there the nourishment, the vitamins, the minerals, they'll evenly spread. So this shraddha, we can say, this is foundational in śaraṇāgati, to have this conviction that simply by doing this one thing, everything will be attained. And I like the way that it's put here, being governed by the faith, not that it's just a theoretical thing or an armchair thing, but that's actually like dictating how you behave and speak and all of your daily action. This is a deeper level of faith, where this is also mentioned in the descriptions of different levels of Vaishnavas. The very neophyte Vaishnav, when they're in the company of devotees or they're in the temple, then they may follow everything very properly, etc., etc. But when they're outside of that arena, they're, like we can say, like their personal life, their social life, that's not affected by these higher spiritual principles. When they're in that company, in that environment, then they're reminded and they're following, but it hasn't really taken root, hasn't deeply rooted within them. And so when they're in another environment, another circumstance, then they may do anything and everything. But the more mature, the Madhyam Adhikar Vaishnav, in their personal life, their social life, everything is colored by that Shastra Chakshu, by that spiritual vision, the eye of scripture, the teachings of Hari, Guru, and Vaishnav. And another thing we can mention here is on this point, bhagavad-bhaktitaḥ sarvam, is that one way we can understand it, like more from a Vedic perspective, is that, or like a Varnashram perspective, is that whatever duties we may have that we are obliged to perform, they can be left aside for this higher duty. So like this is the clarion call of Bhagavad-gita, right? Sarva-dharmam prijajya mamekam sharanam vraja. You can give up all of these lower duties to attend to this higher duty. Leave aside the relative for the cause of the absolute. And for those who follow or are familiar with the Vedic culture and Varnashram Dharma, this is very significant, because normally there's so many obligations, so many duties that one has to perform, right? It is mentioned that every living entity, every human being has particular debts that they have to pay, right? They have debts. They have a debt to their ancestors. They have a debt to the demigods, to the devas. They have a debt to the sages who have given the scripture. They have a debt to humankind in general, and like this. And then there's different ways that those debts must be liquidated. The debt to the ancestors by having children, the debts to the sages by studying the scripture, sacrifice to the devas, and so on and so forth. So it's actually a very beautiful way to live. It's like living in consciousness of consequences. Actually, living in consciousness of it's like a way of treading lightly in the world, like creating the least amount of minimizing reaction and keeping peace, keeping harmony. It's like there's recognition of all these other factors in the environment. We're not able to live independent. We're living on the mercy of so many things, our body, life, air, food. There's so much energy behind all of these things. So this whole Vedic system is actually very beautiful. It's about living in recognition of all of these different elements of the environment. And this, recognizing this exchange of energy, and it's a very respectful way to live. It's just that if somebody is going to attend to this higher call of Krishna seva, of Krishna bhakti, the who is the center, the root, then it becomes unnecessary to attend to lower duties, because one is engaged in something more fundamental. And Krishna, he can cover for all those things. He'll cover all of those things for us. So then we're justified to leave those things behind. So this is one perspective on this point, that any duties that we have, they can be, one may feel obliged to just for myself, just because that's the example right here, normally one will be obliged to, get a job in society and pay taxes and get your education and so on and so forth. But in order to give attention to a higher duty, a higher call, then we're leaving aside all of these things, and it is justified, because it is a higher duty. So that is one. Then another point, which can be appreciated by everyone, whether they're acquainted with the Vedic practices or culture or not, is another way this can be understood, is that whatever fulfillment we are seeking, whatever happiness we are seeking, that will be gotten here. Krishna, he is a khile rasamrita murti. He is as Srila Sri said, he is the emporium of all rasa. Whatever you're seeking, it's there. Every sensation, every shade of happiness, all fulfillment, taste, whatever it is, whatever you're seeking in various relationships and various pursuits, whatever you're trying to gain, to acquire within this world, it can all be found there. He is the very embodiment of that. So you don't need to run this way, run that way, or Srila Sridhar Maharaj would say, give up your wild goose chasing habit. It's a wild goose chase. You're not going to get it anyway. You'll get some wisp of something, But so it's all there, And Srila Gurudev, he would discuss this point. He commented once, how can you expect to find happiness when you are neglecting happiness himself? Happiness is a person. Happiness has its super subjective existence. And so if we want real happiness, we have to approach the person of who is happiness. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he also made a very nice comment that actually everyone is searching for Krishna, whether they are aware of it or not. Because, Krishna is happiness, Krishna is joy, Krishna is love, Krishna is beauty, Krishna is whatever sensation, thrill, adventure that we're seeking. He is those things. So actually, whether one is conscious of it or not, one is seeking Krishna in an indirect way. So why seek in this indirect way, which just leads to disappointment, frustration? But go directly, to the real source of all these things. So, bhagavad-bhaktitaḥ, to have this faith that everything can be gotten and everything can be fulfilled simply through bhakti to the Lord, through devotion to Śrī Kṛṣṇa. And to such an extent, it utsṛjya vidher that that even, and this Srila Gurudev explained, it can be understood in two ways, but the main way, as is rendered here, is that your faith in Krishna will be to such an extent that one is even ready to give up the rulings of the scriptures. I mean, for us, it's not very difficult to appreciate this point. Like, okay, no problem. But there's actually, like, for persons who have appreciation for the Vedic culture, this is very serious. Actually, it's very serious. It's hard for us to relate, actually. It's like, it means like you have to give up religion. Give up. This is very difficult for one who has appreciation. It's more difficult than giving up bad activity. To give up immorality, that's one thing. That's okay. We can do that. We can appreciate that, the necessity of that. But to be ready to give up morality or so-called morality, that's very difficult. Very difficult. That's a deeper, more binding attachment. Attachment to the mode of goodness is very difficult. In Mahabharata, there's that example of Yudhisthira Maharaj when the Pandavas, everything's like kind of descended, and everyone's playing tricks on each other, and the Kauravas have played some trick on the Pandavas, and so I'm terrible with Mahabharata, and I can't remember. Maybe you can remember better, but all the surrounding details. But anyhow, Krishna asked Yudhisthira to tell a lie, to say that Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, right, was dead, because he knew that first of all that would really dishearten Dronacharya, who was like the general, right? And so they would be weakened, and then if Yudhisthira was to say that, Yudhisthira, he's the embodiment of justice and morality. If Yudhisthira said it, then everybody would have to believe it. If it was somebody else, they wouldn't accept. Oh, maybe they're playing some trick, But because but if it comes from Yudhisthira, everybody they won't question it. So Krishna made this very difficult request, to Yudhisthira. And Yudhisthira Maharaj, he was not able to fully do that, and finally he compromised, and he said, Ashwatthama, the elephant, has died. But it's said that after that incident, his chariot, it always used to float above the ground because he was so truthful. But after that incident, it went to the ground. And so the ordinary commentators, they say, oh, because he told like a lie, actually. It was a tricky thing. It wasn't completely truthful. So that for that reason it went down. But the Vaishnava section of scholars, they say the opposite. They say that his chariot went down because he couldn't lie, actually. He couldn't fully lie for Krishna. He couldn't appreciate this principle that, Krishna is truth. This is a higher conception of truth. What Krishna wills, that is truth. This is a higher plane of truth. And so because he wasn't able to adhere to that, then he went down, actually. That is their perspective. And so the extreme example is the Braja Gopis, that they give up religion, they give up their ordinary chastity, worldly chastity, in order to serve Krishna. And this is one reason why we like in Srila Saraswati Thakur shloka Pujala Raga Pata Gaurava Bange, that that raga pots, that plane of spontaneous devotion, we're doing puja to that. And we ourselves, Gaurava Bhanga, we're keeping some posture of respect, and we're following we're following some regulated devotional life. In other words, we try to live, a clean, moral life and try to follow the rules, regulations, etc. Because otherwise we can't really, if we're mixing with the impurity of this world so much, then we can't really appreciate the purity of that higher plane. Srila Sridhar Maharshi commented once when some devotees, they'd married and divorced, and then one of them was marrying again, and Srila Sridhar Maharshi was very unhappy about that, that all this mixing and I can't remember the exact details, but something like that. And Srila Sridhar Maharshi is like some moving, changing so many partners, and Srila Sridhar Maharshi was unhappy, and he commented, how will they be able to understand the high devotion of the Braja Gopis? That for them that was actually a sacrifice, to leave aside their that relationship with their husband. That's the ruling of the scripture, to leave that aside, to abandon that in order to serve Krishna. That was a sacrifice for them. We cannot really appreciate these things. But that was Srila Sridhar Maharshi. How will they be, if they're engaging in this loose way in this world, they don't understand, what dignity is here, then how they cannot understand that, So here we're looking like these very high examples. On our own level, we will be cautious to leave aside, the rulings of scripture. But if it's really necessary, we have to develop some Paramahamsa vision. In Gurudev's Arti song, there's that very nice line, Paramahamsa Dharma Stapila Shama Bahu Jagatam Ajhade Paramahamsa Dharma Gyan Shikshana Pracha. That in order to spread this Paramahamsa Dharma, you have established these temples all over the world. So that means developing some spiritual vision and developing, the ability to appreciate the essential element of any given situation. One example, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he changed the practice of Ekadashi. According to scripture, Ekadashi is meant to be a full day fast. But Srila Saraswati Thakur, he pointed out, what is the real purpose of Ekadashi? What is the real significance of Ekadashi? That Krishna is more hungry, Krishna is in more need of seva on this day. So if we're like doing a complete fast, we won't be able to do anything. We'll be completely incapacitated. So he changed that, to half-day fast and taking, anukalpa, taking simply, non-grain prasadam. So in the same way, understanding this essential principle, smartavya satatam vishnur vishmartavya najatu chit, to always remember Krishna, to never forget Krishna. These are the two main points in the scriptures. All of the sarva vidhi nisedasyor etayor eva kinkara, all of the injunctions and prohibitions given in the scriptures, they are servants of these two principles. So whatever rules we may follow, whatever observances we may follow, they must be in the interest of either one of these two things. For Krishna's for basically for the furtherance of our Krishna consciousness, for Krishna's satisfaction. So if it just turns into some dry fasting, following some ritual, some regulation just for the sake of it, and it's not actually in Krishna's interest, for Krishna's satisfaction, then it's worthless. Krishna doesn't care about our sin, and he doesn't care about our piety. They're both on the same level for him. He cares about devotion, that positive thing. So we have to keep some consciousness of that in all of our daily practices and service opportunities. And we saw also in Srila Gurudev's dealings with the devotees that that's what he was appreciating in the devotees, the mood of seva. You know, so many other so-called qualifications or disqualifications, he, you know, auspicious, inauspicious, he didn't look at that so much. But, you know, we saw many persons you would never expect, like they got his mercy, you know, they got his grace because they had something on the positive side, you know, maybe very rough on the exterior, but having that essential quality of, you know, real attraction, real service mood. So we trying to develop that type of, you know, spiritual vision. So utsṛjya vidher, to be ready even to give up the rulings of scripture in the cause of devotion to Krishna. But another way Gurudev said this can be understood is that even if we're not able to follow the rulings of scripture, we won't be disqualified. It's a little more relevant for us that way. kaiṅkaryaṁ kṛṣṇa-pādaikāśrayatvaṁ. Kṛṣṇa-pādaikāśrayatvaṁ. To take is eka, pada eka. Like, eka means one. So like to exclusively take shelter of Krishna. Like in the Govardhan pastime, you know, the Brajabasis, they have no choice, but in the end, they have some arrangement with Indra. Indra's taking care of them, you know, they're giving something to Indra, they're giving something to Indra, Indra's giving something to them, but Krishna smashes that whole arrangement. Why are you giving any attention elsewhere? Just your whole concern is with me, you know, just take exclusive shelter of me and I'll take care of you. And maybe in the in-between stage you have to suffer some consequences. Giving up your dependency on other forms of shelter in order to take this higher shelter. There may be some interim period, you know, of disturbance, you know, like with the Brajabasis, and Indra's very angry and he tries to drown them. But finally, you know, they are protected. You know, Krishna, he takes care of them. So, you know, we're trying to, and these things will be applied in different ways, you know. They may be applied in a more subtle, internal way. You know, internally we may have dependence on so many persons or entities or arrangements in this world, and it may not be appropriate for us to withdraw on, you know, externally, but internally we can make that internal shift, you know, of detaching ourselves, withdrawing our dependency on all of these things. We're dependent on, you know, this particular person giving us this, dependent on this particular job or whatever it may be. You know, we have this weakness in us, within us, which makes us, because it's our nature actually, as the Tatastha Shakti, it's our nature to take shelter. It's constitutionally our nature. But our fault is that we are attracted to the lower plane, and so like the clothes that we wear, the car that we have, like, you know, all of these things, you know, it's like there's some dependency on those things actually. You know, why are these things important? You know? So it's about like shifting that dependency, you know, exclusively, you know, to Guru, Gauranga, Vaishnava, dependency. Our dependency should be on that higher plane. There's a beautiful chapter in Loving Search for the Lost Servant, Beneath the Loving Eye of God, where Sri Maharaj discusses this, and he discusses this point. Our shelter comes from above, not from below. No, try to conceive that you are hanging from that upper world. Not that you're standing on the ground of this world in connection with this lower plane, but your real source is above, and you're actually hanging. Your support is from above. You're hanging from that higher world.
So don't let go.
So, being governed by the faith that all success is achieved by serving the Supreme Lord, to abandon servitude to even scriptural injunctions, and take exclusive refuge in the lotus feet of Śrī Kṛṣṇa in every time, place, and circumstance, is known as śaraṇāgati, unconditional surrender. Okay, then we can move on to the next verse. Sarvāntaryāmitāṁ dṛṣṭvā hareḥ sambandhato khile apṛthag-bhāva-tad-dṛṣṭiḥ prapattir jñāna-bhaktitaḥ. Some consider śaraṇāgati to be that God consciousness which is realization of the one non-differentiated nature in all beings and objects, by seeing the Supreme Lord as the indwelling supersoul of everything. However, such a conception falls within the category of calculative devotion, jñāna-bhakti. It is not in the line of unadulterated pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. Nityatvam chaiva shastreshu prapattir gyayate buddhai aprapanasya nirjanma vaifal-yoktes tu nityata. By scriptural reference, the learned know of the eternality of surrender to the Lord, since the futility of human life without that surrender is elucidated therein. In this way, the eternal constitution of surrender is established. Nanyad ichanti tatpada raja prapana vaishnava kinchida piti tat tasya sadhyatvam uchyate buddhai. Because the devotees who have surrendered unto the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord never aspire for anything else whatsoever, the learned affirm that surrender is the attainable goal of all endeavors. It's very nice. This is the proof that śaraṇāgati is the highest thing, because for those who have been able to become śaraṇāgata, they don't desire anything else in this world. Because normally, whatever we get in this world is not enough. Doesn't matter how much money you have, how much property you have, how beautiful you are, whatever it is, whatever nice tastes you have, available to you, it's never enough, No matter how many nice places you go to see, there's always, the grass is always greener, there's always something else, What iPhone you have or whatever, it's never enough, you're never satisfied. But those who have surrendered to the Lord, they don't care for anything else. They are fully satisfied by that. So this is the evidence. And just remembering that story of Sanatana Goswami, that man who came to him and said, I've heard that you have a touchstone, and could I have that, or can I use that? And Sanatana Goswami said, yes, I did have something like that. I think it's over there in that pile of rubbish. Maybe you can search for it there. And this is something that if you have, you can have all the wealth in the world. You can have whatever you want. And that man, he thought to himself, wait a minute. What does he have, that is more valuable than everything that's considered of value in this world? All the wealth of this world, it's insignificant to this person, this sadhu. So he must have a higher type of wealth. In Bhagavad-gita, there's a very nice verse. Yam labdva shaparam labam manyate nadikam tata yasmin stito na dukena gurunapi vishalyate. That it's saying that if one, and this is just speaking about like Brahma conception, impersonal Brahman, having some touch of that. What to speak of, everything beyond that, Krishna, Vrindavan. That one who has just a glimpse of that, just once, has a touch of that, they will feel there's nothing superior to this, nothing higher than this. And nothing can disturb them, even if they're in the midst of the worst kind of suffering. So these things are indicating to us, this is the real attainment of life. Or Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtakam, what is it that he had? What is this prema bhakti? What that is so valuable, that having this or appreciating the prospect of this, everything else in this world can be dismissed. Nadanam, najanam, nasundaram, kavitamma jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad-bhaktir haitu kitoye. I don't care for the wealth of this world. I don't care for popularity, for name and fame, for followers. I don't care for the sense pleasure of this world. I don't care also to be freed from this world, to be freed from the cycle of birth and death and birth and death. But mama janmani janmanisha bhavatad-bhaktir haitu kitoye. This is all that I want, devotion to you. Pure, selfless, unmotivated devotion to you, Lord. This is Mahaprabhu's expression. So how can somebody say that? How can they dismiss everything of this world? Because they have something so much higher, they have something so much superior. And śaraṇāgati is the key to attaining that. It is the key, and it is also the treasure at the same time. Okay, next verse. Bhava dukkha vinashascha pada-nishtana yogyata param prapattir kṛṣṇa-pādaikāśrayatvaṁ eva cha. Only by surrender to the Lord can one gain freedom from the miseries of birth, death, disease, and infirmity. Fitness to deliver others from those miseries, the holy abode of Lord Vishnu, and the devotional service of Lord Krishna. So, bhava dukkha vinashas, the suffering of this material world will become, destroyed. Vinashas, pada, nishtana, yogi. One will become qualified to deliver others. One will attain the supreme abode and ultimately the lotus feet of Śrī Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa-pādaikāśrayatvaṁ eva cha. So freedom from the negative side and entrance into the positive side can be gained through śaraṇāgati. And this next verse is very nice. Shravana kirtanadinam bhaktyanganam hiyajane akshamasyapi sarvapti prapatyaiva haraviti. Everything is accomplished by surrendering unto the lotus feet of Sri Hari, even for one who is unable to execute the integral practices of devotional service based on hearing and chanting. This is like kind of a radical statement, because Shravan Kirtan, that's everything. That is the practice, That's the Kali Yuga Dharma. That's what Mahaprabhu came to give. But here, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's stating, even if you can't do that, you're okay. If you can do śaraṇāgati. Because actually śaraṇāgati is the life force behind all practices of devotion. So in the 9 practices of devotion, then atma-nivedanam, that's the principal one. That's the foundational one. That's the one that makes the others valuable. Srila Sridhar Maharshi, he gives the analogy of a stage, upon which, you'll have a set and players and so many things taking place. And so he says, this atma-nivedana, this spirit of self-giving, śaraṇāgati, this is like the stage, and everything's being performed on top of that stage. So if that falls through, then nothing, it's all gone. You can't do anything. So this is this point is being made very strong here. Even if you're not able to perform these practices headed by Shravan Kirtan, that is okay. You will still be fully successful. Such is the position of śaraṇāgati. Sakyara sāśrita praya seti kechid vadanti tu madhuryado prapananam pravesho nashti chetina. Some claim that surrender is generally in the relationship of friendship, sakyaras. But it is complete fallacy to think that surrendered souls have no entrance into divine relationships headed by consorthood, madhura ras. Sakrit pravriti martinena prapati siddhyatiti yat lobod padana hetostad alochana prayojanam. Since surrender is achieved by turning to the refuge of the Lord just once, we should earnestly discuss the subject to enable the longing for surrender to be born in us. So maybe we don't have the desire for it, but if we just talk about it, then something may awaken within our heart.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, because we lean towards our environment, our association, what we're hearing, what we're speaking. All of these things are making impressions in our consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita, there's that line, Sangat Sanjayate Kam. That desire, it arises through one's association. So if you're, this is one of the points about sadhu sangha. If you're always, staying in the company of those who have that, then something, will awaken within you. Also, just seeing their behavior, seeing what they talk about, what they do, then something within us is getting stirred. Something's awake. So just if we talk about it, then some desire within us may awaken. The desire to surrender. This is like the most valuable property, to have the desire to surrender. And this establishes how, what a high aspiration this is. Not that it's so easy, not that it's so straightforward, But let's start with just some desire to try to surrender. Not like, I'm going to do it, It's not so easy. Srila Sridhar Maharaj told of one occasion when he was in Puri and with some of his godbrothers, and there was one, he was like a friend of the Vaishnavas, as I understand, like an educated gentleman who had knowledge of the scripture, but he wasn't exactly a Vaishnava himself, but very scholarly and knowledgeable and all these things. And so one day they were walking on the beach, the group, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, some of his godbrothers, and this gentleman. And then this man, he asked them, so we hear about all these wonderful things that you can get, so much, so many things we can attain through Krishna consciousness. But like, what is like the real secret? Like, how can you really get it? What's the real key? What's the magic number? And so everyone looked at Srila Sridhar Maharaj, like deferring to him to answer. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, one must become śaraṇāgata. Śaraṇāgati means who has performed śaraṇāgati, who is a surrendered soul. One must be śaraṇāgata, a surrendered soul. And that man, he didn't understand the implications of this. He was a little, dismissive, and he said, "Oh, I can do that." He said, "It's no problem. If you tell me to go jump in this ocean right here, I can do that. No problem." And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he said, that is the opposite feeling. That is the opposite feeling of a real śaraṇāgata. The real feeling is that I can do it. I want to do it. One will actually have some appreciation for the gravity of such a thing. Not that you have your instant, pot of śaraṇāgati. That like, I can do this. It's not like that. So the one who's really approaching that, they will really realize the significance, the value, the gravity of that, and they will feel sincerely and earnestly, I'm not able to do that, I'm unable. Because it is not body sacrifice, it is ego sacrifice. It's taking place on a more subtle plane. One can do, or not do so many things, but to give up one's ego, to give up one's false sense of self, that is very difficult. And it's not an overnight task. It's not an overnight thing. So when we are really approaching that, we will realize more and more, how difficult it is actually, and how far away. And layer after layer is going to get uncovered, and the more we continue, the more we'll feel, I have so far to go. So we should earnestly discuss the subject to enable the longing, to have the desire, I want to surrender. It's so beautiful. To have the desire to surrender. It's really like, this verse is really like putting us in our place, like giving us perspective here. Like let's just talk about it. We don't even have the desire. What to speak of being there? We don't even have the desire to be there. Like so many steps removed. So let's talk about it, so that some real desire to do it may awaken within us, and then we may start moving towards that. It's wonderful. This perspective is so important. Like we were discussing recently in Yukai, how we've heard from Srila Gurudev, how our approach towards the example I heard from Srila Gurudev was, he said, when I go to Vrindavan, I'm not directly going and thinking of all the Krishna pastimes that took place here, the Radha Krishna Leela, but I'm thinking about my gurus, I'm thinking about, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, my Guru Maharaj, when they came here, where did they go? What was their appreciation? Through our appreciation is through the lens of our Guru's appreciation. Not that we'll think, oh yeah, I have this, or also, but they have this, and I'm appreciating what they have, And Srila Gurudev also pointed out that we have to be careful when some of the songs that we're going through, like to keep that perspective that this is their feeling. Like this is Narottam Thakur's feeling. This is Bhakti Vinod's feeling. Not otherwise we'll become sahaja, we'll become imitation. It's like we're diving in and oh yeah, I'm feeling this, Actually this is their feeling. And we're fortunate to be able to, sing this and to appreciate their appreciation. So to have this perspective. The more times removed that we feel, the more appreciation we have for what this actually is. Okay, I'll read a little bit more. Maybe we can finish. What time is it?
Would you be able to just go back to verse 36 and talk a little bit more? Just that little,
which one?
Verse 36, and just a bit more about that. That's that non-differentiated nature of all beings, and how one's what's the difference with that calculated devotion, jñāna-bhakti. It's like seeing God consciousness in all things.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the way I understand this is that this is like describing a state of Brahma-gyan, right? Like you see everything on an equal level, like it is told in Bhagavad-gita, right? You don't distinguish between the rich man, the poor man, the dog on the street, the guy sitting on the throne. You're just seeing on this even, level. Everyone is spirit. Everyone is consciousness, and all this duality of good, bad, rich, poor, intelligent, stupid, high, low. It's all totally meaningless, right? So this is Brahma-gyan, like Śukadeva Goswami. He's a prime example of that. So this is one perspective, but the devotional perspective is different. The devotional that perspective of Brahma-gyan, we can say it's kind of like a bedrock, or it's part of like the building structure in the conception of the devotional practitioner. It's like in the background, but the devotional perspective is seeing everything in relation to the interest of Krishna.
So if going back to that thing of seeing if everything is a part of Krishna, like if everything is created as part of Krishna, then and if that's what you're seeing, rather than that you're seeing something as all equal, that everything is like essentially there's nothing separate from Krishna.
You're saying the devotional perspective.
Yeah, I don't know if that's.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say is that just like for example, just a very silly example, say there's some chocolate cake or something.
Yeah.
then the Brahma-gyan perspective is not seeing anything outstanding there. This is just some elements of matter. But the devotional perspective will be, this is something nice, something tasteful that I can offer for Krishna's satisfaction. Or say a beautiful woman, a Brahma-gyani will just see a spirit soul there.
Okay. Yeah. So you can also see it from the perspective of the devotional part of it. There's two ways of looking at. So the fact that everything's permeated by Krishna consciousness. So if you're seeing everything like that, that can be a devotional way of looking at it, rather than the gyan way of saying it's.
Yeah, the devotee will see everything as paraphernalia for Krishna's seva. How it is already connected, or how it can be connected, how it can be engaged in the service of Krishna. That is and in the case of Śukadeva Goswami, You know, he was living on this platform of like oneness, you know, of Brahma Gyan, not interested in anything, you know, and attached to this impersonal conception. But when he heard the pastimes of Krishna, then he was attracted to that. You know, he was attracted, and you know, that plane of variety, you know, movement of color and so on and so forth. You know, he was attracted to that, to this personal conception as being something superior, as being something higher. So the devotees, they will see everything in terms of that, in terms of Krishna's interest. I mean, I don't think I'm explaining very clearly, but
what it makes me think is, what, you know, just, it's like, okay, well, this one comes from thought, from intellect, you know, from a conception, from
not
an engagement of the
necessarily,
mind,
no.
and the other comes from...
Not necessarily,
No,
because that's the soul plane, actually. One may be living in real pure consciousness. One may be like Shukadev. He was living on the platform of pure consciousness. And even, you know, and beyond just the individual Atma, but that, you know, that Brahman aspect of the Lord. So, no, it's not. That is a real aspect of divinity. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's a lower conception. You know, the one living on that platform, they'll be more or less indifferent to everything. It's like a neutral plane. There's nothing positive there.
Yeah.
But the devotees, they're like actively, you know, trying to connect and engage everything with that higher plane.
Is it that it doesn't reach your deepest inner state of what you are?
That's
that
true.
Sense,
That's true, yeah. Because everyone, we could say it's not living on that platform. It's not the full-fledged. It's not, that soul is not fully evolved, because everyone has that. You know, it is said that every soul has its sarup, you know, its intrinsic spiritual identity in the positive plane. So yes, you could say that, but it's like in a very seed form, very undetectable form. That spiritual sarup in the higher positive plane of divinity. Is that clear?
Yeah, I think so. So I'll think on it more and see what I don't even really know what I'm asking, even on one level. It's like up to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've given, you know, very, you know, it's not a perfect explanation, but something as I've understood. Well, it has been almost an hour, right? Maybe we should stop. We're moving slowly. And I mean, what's being stated here, I think this is some reference to some conception that I'm not familiar with. You know, some consider śaraṇāgati to be that God consciousness, which is realization of the one non-differentiated nature. I'm not familiar with that. He's addressing some particular, you know, thought.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. And I mean, the what he's saying here, this state of being in that type of consciousness, this is not. It's like in Gita, there's this verse. You know, to be living in this consciousness, you know, like what Mahaprabhu is given as the highest thing, it's so high, you know, the jnana-shunya bhakti, knowledge-free devotion, right? That's what's being referred to here. The residents of Vrindavan, they're living without consciousness, you know, that this is God, right? They're not living in they're not thinking like that. They're just just attracted by his beauty and his charm, and have this very natural expression of love.
So it's a direct heart.
Yeah.
No
head. Exactly. Yeah. So, but to live in consciousness of like, I'm a spirit soul, and this is God. This is a lower level of devotion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So like in Bhagavad-Gita, there's this famous verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna, I think it's in the 18th chapter. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na shochati na kaṅkshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. Saying that one who has realized themselves to be of spirit, to be a spiritual being, they do not desire anything of this world, and they don't hanker after anything, and they also don't lament for anything in this world. There's nothing that they want to get, and they don't lament having lost anything. Mad bhaktim labhate. Such a person, they will get bhakti to me. So it's like this it's kind of like the stage before. It can be the stage, depends how you're going, but in a progressive development, that would be the stage before you get this pure devotion, like having this realization of things, the real nature of things. So interestingly, in the Ramananda Sambad, in this famous, you're familiar with that a little bit?
No.
It's
really
a very famous, it's like, you could say, like the most significant section of Chaitanya Charitamrita from one perspective. It's chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila, the middle section, where there's Sambad means conversation. So it's a conversation that takes place between Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, a close associate of Mahaprabhu. And so it's an interesting conversation because Mahaprabhu poses himself as the student, and he puts Ramananda as like the teacher. Or kind of like that, but Mahaprabhu's like acting as the inquirer. And so he's asking, and Ramananda's giving the answers. And so and this Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he talked about this so much, this particular section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's very important also in the way that Srila Sridhar Maharaj assesses things, because there's a particular method here where it starts out with Mahaprabhu saying, tell me a shloka that establishes what is the goal of life. And so Ramananda, what happens is Ramananda Rai, he proposes something and then Mahaprabhu dismisses it. Proposes something, dismisses it. And so they move in this very gradual, like systematic way from lower to higher conceptions of theological conceptions, you could say. So then at a certain point, they reach this level, which is referred to here. It's put jnana bhakti. It's also rendered as jnana mishra bhakti. So bhakti mixed with jnana, not pure. And so Ramananda cites this verse of Bhagavad-Gita, which I just said, that the pure enlightened soul who's realized that they are the nature of spirit, they don't desire anything of this world, they will. So he mentions that, and Mahaprabhu dismisses that verse because it falls in that category of devotion mixed with too much jnana. There's too much consciousness there of one's own state, and what is the nature of the Lord, his divinity. So it's actually a lower level of devotion. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he discusses this in Search of Śrī Kṛṣṇa. He says, such a person is on the doorstep. They're on the doorstep.
Knocking on the door.
Yeah, they're on the doorstep, but it's not a safe position yet. And if they get anything from here, it'll be the pure thing, because they're on a pure platform. So if they get anything from this point, then they're going to get the real thing. They're going to get the pure thing. But they're not in a safe position yet. They're on the door.
Right.
They're not fully, caught up in that flow of natural, spontaneous devotion. Does that help a little bit more?
That really does make sense.
Maybe that addresses it a little more.
That's good.
That spoils the exchange of love. Too much consciousness like that. So, Mother Jashoda, if she starts thinking like, oh, this is God, then how can she tie him up? And that will spoil that flow of rasa, that exchange of divine feeling and love. So in Vrindavan, none of that's allowed. There's no room for that there.
So it's like being naive in a good way, like.
Well,
know what I mean?
this is the thing. We don't imitate that. We worship that, like as the highest ideal. We're not talking in terms of our practice here. We're talking in terms of understanding the ideal, the highest ideal. Because this is the danger, that people go and jump into that, and they get themselves in trouble. It's like you're learning the ABCs, and you try to write some
thesis.
write a thesis. Like first learn the foundation, make your way there, So that's also important, that we don't imitate it. Outside of our mat in Navadvip, Srila Gurudev, you went to there, right? Yeah, so you must have seen it, unless it was before Gurudev put it. I'm not sure exactly when, but anyhow, in front of the Nat Mandir, he inscribed this very important verse of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Gurudev made a slight adjustment. The verse Pujala Ragapat Gaurva Bange. How does it go? Pujala Ragapat Gaurva Bange Matala Harijana Kirtana Range. There's two different versions of it, but this is Gurudev's version. This verse, Gurudev put so much importance on this verse. It's like, this is everything. This is our practicing life. This is our ideal. Everything's in this verse. And so the verse is saying that we are worshipping, we are doing puja to those higher devotees who are engaged in this higher, you could say naive, type of worship. We are worshipping those persons, but we ourselves, Gaurava Bange, that's indicating that we ourselves are following the rules and guidelines of the scriptures, and we're engaging very happily in kirtan. Matala Harijana Kirtana Range. We are our main focus is in engaging in kirtan.
So it's like, just thinking then, it's like a naturalistic portrait compared to an icon. There's sort of icons where the face isn't naturalistic at all. It's like one of, say, the Virgin Mary or something. And it's really extracted, sort of very different kind of looking picture of a person, but it's a sort of like in an essence, an icon painting. It's nothing like, it doesn't look anything like just a portrait, a naturalistic portrait where it tries to look like the person. So it's got this other power in it that comes from not trying to just delineate what we know, as such as something higher, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, now in our stage now, we need to have awareness and work on the building blocks and You know, it's, you know, like they say, you know, learn the rules so you know, once you know the rules, you can break the rules, right? So we're in that stage, you know, where, you know, we need to give attention to all these things.
Yeah.
And when we're fit for that higher level of devotion, it will happen in a very natural way. You know, the influence of yoga maya that's what it's actually about. You know, it's not that we will imitate, but the influence of yoga maya will come over us. You know, as there is maha maya, right, the illusion of this world, so there is yoga maya, the illusion of that higher world, and they're all under the influence of that type of maya, that type of illusion. So it will come, you know, when we're ready, it will come. You know, we don't have to, you know, artificially, you know, follow that or try to induce something. You know. So you know, we want to be healthy in our spiritual. We don't want to jump over any steps. You know. We have to go step by step. And our gurus, they will take us there. They want to take us there. So we can rest assured about that. Okay, we'll stop there. Jai Sri Sri Prapanna-jivanamritam. Jai Gurudev. Jai Param Guru Maharaj Ki Jai.